Good evening, I'm Andrew Chang. Adrienne is on assignment. It was unprecedented, controversial, and sudden. Tonight, it's gone.
The federal government will be ending the use of the Emergencies Act.
Cue the official inquiry. Was it necessary in the first place? Also tonight, a state of emergency, armed civilians.
It makes us, I would say, angry.
We're on the ground inside Ukraine. Food insecurity in Canada. Why solutions can't just be local.
We need programs that redistribute income, land, that address systemic inequalities.
And rescued at sea, captured on camera.
And they said, oh no, and I'm getting choked up. We're here to rescue you.
A 77-year-old Canadian described 6 days in a life raft. This is The National. 9 days after the federal government made history, invoking the Emergencies Act for the very first time, today the Prime Minister says the emergency is over and use of the Act revoked. It was brought in to end border blockades and the protest occupation near Parliament Hill, but it stirred its own controversy from day one. Some agreed it was necessary, some called it an overreach. Now, though, it's gone as quickly as it arrived. David Cochrane explains why the Prime Minister says today was the day to end it.
The streets of Ottawa have been mostly clear and quiet since Sunday. So with crews cleaning up and fences coming down, the Prime Minister says the time for emergency powers is over.
We are confident that existing laws and bylaws are now sufficient to keep people safe.
A surprise announcement coming while the Senate was still debating whether to approve the use of the Emergencies Act in the first place.
The Trudeau government failed to make its case.
Ms. Blaney. Monsieur Boulris.
And less than 48 hours after New Democrats voted with the Liberals to endorse it.
I declare the motion carried.
As I said, this was always proportional and time limited.
And now gone entirely. Since the police moved in, the gravitational forces that fueled this occupation are largely gone. The crowds dispersed, the money cut off. Key convoy leaders in jail or out on bail, but ordered to leave Ontario and have no contact with the convoy.
We've been calling all along for the moment that those provisions are no longer necessary to revoke it, and we're satisfied that today the provisions of the Emergency Act were revoked.
The NDP says the threshold has been met to revoke the order. The Conservatives say Trudeau is backing away from a power grab.
Nothing has changed in the past 48 hours except the Prime Minister, we believe, recognized how wrong he was to invoke it in the first place.
The emergency phase is over. Now the accountability phase begins. A special parliamentary committee will study the government's use of these powers, while a mandatory public inquiry will investigate the circumstances that led to these emergency measures in the first place. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, the protesters may have left Ottawa, but not all of them have gone home. As Ashley Burke shows us, some are still gathered just outside the city, deciding their next move.
A vestige of a movement that took over downtown Ottawa for 23 days. A shrinking camp on private property not far outside the city. 60 vehicles seen here Monday, now roughly 20, and only a few large trucks. Protesters wouldn't let media inside the camp, but sent out a trucker to help us when CBC's van got stuck.
You guys are going to believe this story.
Wearing a Defund the CBC hat, trucker Tyson Garreau towed us out of the snow and live streamed it all.
We don't leave Canadians stuck no matter who. That's what I said. That's where I've been sleeping.
Garreau said he lost his job in road maintenance because he's been in Ottawa demonstrating all month for his grandchildren's freedom. Now he isn't sure what comes next.
The plans we really are unaware of right now. A lot is lying in the... we're not looking to cause trouble.
Paper towels, napkins.
One protester live streaming from inside the camp committed to continuing to push back against COVID restrictions, but in a lawful way.
We're not going to convoy, but we are going to do a march.
This is just one of 3 camps that are set up within roughly an hour's drive of Parliament Hill. One is to the west in Armprior, another to the south in Greeley, and the third to the east in Vancouver Hill. These police officers are visiting the sites to tell protesters what they can and cannot do.
I'm sure the message is quite clear with these individuals that they will not be allowed back to the downtown area for obvious reasons.
This may be just simply sites where people can simply drink, dance, have fun after a couple of weeks. They may be plotting their next steps.
The Prime Minister said today that he still sees these camps as a threat, but that he's been assured by police they can handle it without use of the Emergencies Act, and that authorities are in a much stronger position to keep blockades and occupations from coming back to streets like this in front of Parliament Hill. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now let's bring Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton in on this. So Rosie, there are a few questions after today, one being, why now?
Yeah, Andrew, the government obviously was very aware for the potential for further political backlash here, but also the possibility of losing public support for this. There's no longer any one event or demonstration or protest that police presumably could not handle to point to as evidence that this was needed or still needed. So the criticism from all corners, even those who supported the use of the act in the short term, was that it either was overreach or it was going to become government overreach. And the last thing the Prime Minister wanted here was to be perceived as abusing his powers. As he said himself today, the emergency is over and so is the act.
Okay, so was it a success?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the question that we need to answer. It certainly will be answered in part during this inquiry and the review of the act that's built into the legislation. There are a series of court challenges that will test it. Whether it was a success, I would say, depends on where you're sitting. Ottawa residents would probably say for sure. Conservatives would say it was used because there was a failure to act before. Police would say they needed it in order to get the blockade ended. So the success question, I think, has yet to be answered. But 10 days after invoking the act, the blockade is over, and the federal government can at least certainly claim responsibility for helping to do that.
Okay, Rosie, thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrew.
And Rosie, we'll be back in just a few minutes' time with a special Wednesday edition of At Issue. Well, Ukraine has declared a state of emergency. Separatists in the country's east have requested Russia's military intervention. A pretext for war is in play, and the region, the world, is holding its breath. Russian forces are in attack positions, less than 15 kilometers from Ukraine's border. In the rebel-held east, they are being invited to cross it. Kiev says cyber attacks have stepped up amid the world's demands for Russia's President Vladimir Putin to pull back. He seems poised to pull the trigger. Tonight, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed both his country and Russia.
Сегодня я инициировал телефонный разговор с президентом Российской Федерации. Результат – тишина.
Zelensky then switched from Ukrainian to Russian, making an impassioned plea to the Russian people to oppose their government and bring about peace. Margaret Evans is in Kiev, Ukraine, capital of a country surrounded, Russian forces on most of its borders, or in some cases, already within them. Margaret, how is Ukraine preparing?
Well, Andrew, a state of emergency is now in force. It came into effect at midnight local time, and it brings with it the powers for different regions to use as they choose based upon their perceived threat levels.
Kiev's monument to freedom, keeping watch over a city whose calm has stood fast in recent days, despite the sound and fury all around. But Ukraine's government is clearly signaling it no longer believes a wider war with Russia is avoidable. The call for a 30-day state of emergency came this morning from security chiefs, Parliament not hesitating to approve it, along with legislation allowing ordinary citizens to carry firearms. And reservists called up yesterday started showing up for duty today.
I was ready, so I had my backpack full, I checked my armor, I checked my helmet, I checked my weapon.
Artem Zakharov is a member of the Territorial Defense Forces, normally a procurement manager. He admits to some nerves.
It does not scare us helpless. It makes us, I would say, angry.
In the western city of Lviv, where many diplomatic missions have relocated to, local authorities practiced loudspeaker drills in case communications go down. There were reports of more cyber attacks on government websites here, blamed on Russia. and any window left for diplomacy seems to be fast disappearing. Ukraine's foreign minister told UN members his country alone is not under threat.
Your governments and your people will face painful consequences together with our government and our people. This is why we need to use this last chance for action and stop Russia where it is.
In Moscow, after laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier, the Russian President Vladimir Putin took to the airwaves again. Russia is always open to dialogue, he said, but Russia's interests and our people's security are unconditional. And by day's end, Ukraine had also urged its citizens inside Russia to leave.
So, Margaret, what other moves are we seeing from the Russian side?
Well, we're hearing from the leaders of those two pro-Russian breakaway territories that they have actually asked Russia for assistance. They want Russia to come in to help them with what they describe as Ukrainian aggression against them. That's going to be very, very worrying for people here because it's a pattern we've seen here before, potentially something that Vladimir Putin could use as a pretext for a further invasion.
Margaret Evans, thank you very much. Now to Susan Ormiston in Washington, where the White House has repeated warnings an invasion could come within hours. Susan, what international moves are we seeing tonight on Ukraine?
The UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting tonight after the Ukrainian Prime Minister's emotional address to his country and a day of rapidly escalating tensions. In Kyiv, the Russian embassy is shuttered, its flag removed. Russian citizens being told to get out of Ukraine as UN members, including Canada, blame Russia for unprovoked aggression.
Russia and its acolytes can spin and can contort all they want, but the violations of international law are theirs. The loss of life, the wounding, the pain, the suffering are all their responsibilities.
The U.S. State Department warning Ukraine that Russia could invade within hours.
It could start today. It could start tomorrow. It could start next week. What we haven't seen is any indication that the Russians are backing away from this.
Instead, the invitation from pro-Russian leaders in separatist territories to come help. Military convoys on the move. As Russia's UN representative blamed Ukraine.
Territories lost as a result of the hate-filled policy against its own citizens that Kyiv has turned into a national idea after the illegitimate Maidan coup of 2014.
The 2014 Maidan revolution in Kyiv toppled Ukraine's president, sympathetic to Russia. In turn, Russia moved into Crimea, covertly at first. Are you Russian troops? Nothing. And now?
Our world is facing a moment of peril. I truly hoped it would not come.
More U.S. troops are repositioning in Eastern Europe. The EU warning of escalating sanctions, and Washington signaling Russia should expect casualties too.
Body bags will return to Moscow, that Ukrainians will fight back.
Susan, what else are we seeing from Ukraine's allies?
Well, Canada, with its G7 allies, will meet urgently tomorrow. More severe sanctions, one of their options. But tonight, several airports in eastern Ukraine are shut down, and Transport Canada is prohibiting Canadian flights from flying over Dnipro in the east and Simferopol in Crimea, and recommending that air operators avoid all of Ukrainian airspace.
Susan Ormiston in Washington, thank you very much. Now, Washington is bracing for another possible threat. Trucker convoys across the U.S. headed to the capital, inspired by the protests here in Canada. This convoy left California today. Others are forming elsewhere in the states, like this one that left Pennsylvania today. Some say the goal is to arrive in time for next week's State of the Union address. Preparations are being made in Washington. 700 unarmed National Guard troops have been deployed. In Winnipeg, only a small part of that convoy remains in front of the Manitoba legislature tonight.
We'll wait for another day, see what's happening next, wait for more Canada to decide what they're going to do.
Police had ordered participants to leave by 5 o'clock local time. Most were gone by this morning. Okay, let's turn to other news now. COVID-19 has hit Alberta's healthcare system hard. Its surgery backlog is now sky high. Desperate to relieve the pressure, officials are looking to increase the number of procedures done in private facilities. Julia Wong looks at what that means for patients.
I really can't do anything. My hip hurts so bad.
Darlene Vader's hips are destroyed by arthritis. The Alberta woman was told it could take more than a year before she can get a hip replacement, so Vader is turning to a private clinic at a cost of $28,000.
I don't think that Alberta's a prosperous, supposed to be province. I don't think we should have to be doing this.
The pandemic exposed a healthcare system already pushed to its limits. So now the government is working on a plan that could see patients like Vader get surgery faster and without having to pay for it. It's going to double the number of surgeries contracted out to private clinics, up to $90,000 a year, paid for by the province.
Unfortunately, the progress on the surgical initiative has been delayed because of COVID pressures, which have, of course, added to surgical backlogs.
A move like this has some support.
There's probably room for, at least, let's say in the surgery world, for chartered surgical facilities, which are publicly funded but privately operated. Maybe that's what we need to start thinking about.
But others do not agree.
We're diverting public money to private profit. We're already suffering from staff shortages. You're creating a parallel system that will take surgeons, nurses, and others out of the public and actually weaken our ability to offer those public surgeries.
The government will unveil its budget Thursday. Healthcare, a major priority. One doctor wants the province to look at the system differently.
We're not a healthcare system. We're an illness system. It's simple. Keep people from getting sick, so invest in primary care.
As for Vader, she's counting down the hours.
I guess I could live like this, but I don't want to.
Her surgery could be scheduled in a matter of days. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
Now let's turn to Nova Scotia and the inquiry into one of Canada's worst ever mass shootings. The events in and around Portapique traumatized an entire community, including some firefighters caught in the middle who 2 years later say they still don't feel heard. Kayla Hounsell explains.
On that terrible Sunday morning, the Onslow Belmont Fire Brigade had been turned into a comfort center. The gunman, Gabriel Wortman, was still on the loose when 2 RCMP officers mistakenly shot at the fire hall. They thought a municipal official in a safety vest was their suspect.
I lost part of my life, and fire hall was like a second home to me.
Fire Chief Greg Muse and his deputy were inside when the shots rang out.
We hid, under tables, under chairs for an hour, not knowing who fired upon us.
They say the officers left without explanation. Nova Scotia's police watchdog cleared them of any criminal wrongdoing. The firefighters initially hoped the inquiry would provide some answers, but they say they lost hope when investigators didn't even reach out to them until their lawyers pushed them to this month.
I've been disappointed all along, and the way the Commission has handled the proceedings so far.
The inquiry's mandate is broad. Public hearings opened this week with commissioners explaining life in rural Nova Scotia and the structure of policing. They're warning the next session, starting next week, will be much different.
I'm going to be real here. The information that we are going to start sharing on Monday is disturbing. It's awful.
The firefighters say their story is largely forgotten when the bigger story is told.
And I think that's just something important that people have to realize, that it's, there's pretty much an entire community that's been traumatized.
When hearings resume on Monday, the Commission will begin laying out what it has learned about those 2 days in April 2020. That will include sharing transcripts and audio of 911 calls. The final report is expected in November. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, although it may still feel like winter, in just a few weeks, some provinces will already be into their official wildfire seasons. And a new UN report out today says that wildfires globally will get worse and that climate change is to blame. As Susanna De Silva tells us, the report has dire warnings for our changing planet.
Portugal, California, BC. 2017's devastating year for wildfires prompted the UN to look at what climate change could mean for future fire activity. It says the picture isn't good.
I am worried about the findings of the report. I think the impacts on people, psychologically, socially and health-wise, are phenomenal and long-reaching and long-term.
With input from scientists around the world, the report finds that while some areas may see fewer fires, places like the Arctic will begin to see them. And overall, the report's authors project an increase in extreme fires of 14% by 2030, 30% by 2050, and 50% by the end of the century. A disturbing but not surprising trend for those living in BC.
2017, 2018, 2021, that's 3 out of the last 5 years, were record-breaking fire seasons. That signature has the signature of climate change stamped all over it.
The report suggests government should spend relatively fewer resources putting out fires and more on planning, prevention, and recovery. It also suggests more reliance on Indigenous knowledge.
We have to look at forestry from a different perspective and how we manage forests for future generations, and more from an ecology perspective rather from an economic perspective.
8 BC First Nations affected by the massive 2017 Elephant Hill fire are an example. They're using traditional knowledge around reforestation with more controlled burns in the fall and winter.
It doesn't have to be our reality. We can take the tools that we have and the relationships that we have and do something about it, and we can change that outcome.
This week, BC announced funding to make its wildfire service a year-round operation, with the next fire season just weeks away. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, a story of survival tonight from a BC man who spent several days adrift at sea in a raft. How an adventure in the Caribbean turned disastrous, plus the team back in Canada that helped find him.
And they said, "Oh no," and I'm getting choked up. We're here to rescue you.
As food prices soar, communities help feed the hungry.
There's this need for basic necessities that they used to be able to afford.
Is there a better solution? And why the end of the Emergencies Act is far from the end of this political battle. Rosie and At Issue are here in just 2 minutes.
Monday of last week, after days of dangerous and unlawful activities in our capital city and at many border crossings across the country, the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act. It was the responsible and necessary thing to do. And today, after careful consideration, we're ready to confirm that the situation is no longer an emergency. Therefore, the federal government will be ending the use of the Emergencies Act.
So just 10 days after invoking it and just 2 days after it passed the House, the government announced today it was revoking the act, saying the acute emergency was over and police now felt they could control the situation across the country. What does it say about the act, and was using it the right call in the first place? It's Wednesday, one day early, but I'm here with that issue. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj, Elamine Abdul-Mahmoud. Let's start with you, Andrew, on this. I don't know. I'm not sure if we can, say whether it was the right thing to do, invoking it. What about revoking it? Was that the right thing to do at this juncture?
Well, the two are, I guess, linked. If you think that having the Emergencies Act in place had something to do with the collapse of the blockades and the occupation in Ottawa, then it would make sense that once the emergency had passed, that you would then dismantle the emergencies declaration. And that seems to be what has happened. I know people would like to complicate it with all kinds of other possible explanations, but I think the principle of Occam's razor applies here.
Elamine, what do you make of the decision the government made to pull back?
I mean, I think that you had a sort of a long-standing optics problem, which is that, the idea of this this invocation lasting 30 days, they got out ahead of it, which is, by coming out pretty frequently, actually. I think they have to be admired for coming out pretty frequently and saying, this is where we're at in terms of our use of the Emergencies Act. I think they had a responsibility once they started doing that to, as the earliest possible point of saying, this is no longer something that is useful to us, indicating so. So I think they will get points for that. I think now all the attention will turn towards the question that we never resolved in the first place, which is, was this the right thing to do? Yeah. But luckily, we're going to go through an inquiry process for that, so that should be pretty painless, right?
And in terms of the political calculation, Althea, how would the government have considered things making this decision? Or was it not political at all? Was it really based on intelligence and what police were saying?
I think everything is somewhat political, but the political sources tell us that it was based on information that basically the RCMP is saying that they think they have the matter at hand and they don't need any special additional special powers. I think, reading between the line, I'm not even sure if that was reading between the lines. I mean, he basically said it without saying it. The Prime Minister was, basically they came in because the Ottawa cops couldn't do their job. Were there other ways that they could have solved the situation? Would they have, if they had spoken to the opposition leaders, would they have been able to introduce legislation to give the police some of the tools that they didn't have? Possibly. I think we need to be skeptical of the government's response now. Maybe I'm more skeptical today. What has changed in the last 48 hours from Monday when the vote was held in the House of Commons? Frankly, nothing. So why are they re-invoking it now as opposed to Monday? Because the RCMP on Monday was saying that they needed extra powers that they did nothing with over the last 2 days. I'm not convinced of that.
Chantal?
Oh, well, this is one that requires to hold contrary thoughts and belief that one thing and the other that look contrary belong together. It is, Althea is right, totally possible that this would not have happened if the Ottawa police had not misread what was coming at them initially. It is also possible to believe that the invocation of the act acted as a circuit breaker, and that it reversed a trend that was going in the wrong direction, not only in Ottawa, but elsewhere, whether you needed the powers or not. I believe that it was essential for the government, especially a minority government, to have that vote in the House of Commons on the political front to demonstrate that it did have required support to do what it had been doing for a week. And I also think that the remaining couple of days served to tell police forces across the country that they would now need, in the case of the Ottawa police specifically, to do what it is that they're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's an awfully good point, Andrew, that without that support on Monday, it could have had we could be at quite a different place right now.
Yeah, and if you'd never gone to Parliament for the vote, then people would have said this was illegitimate. You never got the proper approval, etc. Also, look, it's only Sunday that this thing was finally shut down. It doesn't seem that implausible to me that you'd wait a couple of days to see what the fallout from that was, and to assess the situation. So it doesn't strike me as being that implausible that in fact what happened here is the occupation was dismantled. They took stock and eventually said, we don't need these powers anymore.
Elamine, what does it say about the use of this going forward? There are people asking whether this sets a precedent, but there is a clear threshold in the law itself that you have to meet. You can question whether it was met here, but it does exist.
Of course, but we haven't heard how this particular incident meets that threshold. Or at least they've sort of made the argument, and I'm not sure that they've convinced the rest of the country that this particular use of the Emergencies Act did meet that threshold. We heard the Prime Minister talk earlier today about how some of these protests were unacceptable, but I think need to hear a little bit more about the ways they were unacceptable, because I think just sort of a blanket use of this against protests is certainly the worry when it comes to just people worrying about their civil liberties. Is just a matter of getting that explanation. As we talked about last week, the worry becomes, what if we don't hear that explanation? What if that explanation is never made public? And then we're just left to speculate about the use of this.
So yeah, I guess you're talking about like intelligence, detailed information about
Yes.
what could have led them to believe that this needed to be dealt with. Althea.
So I've written about this, but I think what is going to be very important is for MPs to press to ensure that this inquiry that is supposed to be called within the next 60 days is a public inquiry, because I think that there is a lot of things that we may or may not know. Maybe we do have a full slate of the picture. Maybe we are concerned that a future Prime Minister would use the Emergencies Act for minor things, and we would like to discourage them from doing so. I would have liked, frankly, the Senate this evening to have had a vote on the Emergencies Act, because to the point of Andrew's point of legitimacy, I think that would have been important. But I think a public inquiry would tell us exactly what the information the government had, what it needed to do, what options it weighed against it, and then we can judge for ourselves whether or not we think that was appropriate action.
Chantal.
Well, there are two interesting good news on this. The first is that this will eventually get hashed out in court. So whether it met the criteria will not be decided in a committee on Parliament Hill, but rather in the Court of Law and eventually in the Supreme Court. I think that's an important baseline for future governments, for one. And two, we did learn that there are a lot more safeguards in this law than in the War Measures Act of the 1970s. There is absolutely no comparison between the two.
That's true.
Yeah, that is a good point. Okay, we're going to take a quick pause here, and when we come back,
It'll be important that we gain a fuller understanding of what gave rise to this kind of disregard for laws and threat to our democracy.
so as politicians try and gain that understanding, what responsibility do they have to change it? At Issue is back after this. Okay, so the Emergencies Act now revoked. What now for how politicians help the country move forward? At Issue is back. Chantal, Andrew, Althea, and Elamine. I'm going to start with Andrew on this because you wrote a column today that touched on some of this, and certainly the Prime Minister earlier this week was trying to lower the temperature and talk about how to move forward. How does this work then, Andrew, in terms of how politicians contribute to rhetoric and taking down the temperature?
Well, I think we should recognize this has deep roots, first of all. We can talk about, and I talked about in the column, about the degree to which people can be increasingly radicalized now with the advent of social media, with bad actors out there who are willing to take advantage of people's susceptibility. But there's also a broader kind of class conflict that's been building for many years now, where people with less education, less cultural capital, as it said, quite rightly sometimes feel that they're being, the more educated, the elites, et cetera, are looking down their noses at them. And people on both sides of the political divide have been in their different ways exploiting that for some time now. Then you add in the particular concerns of anti-vaxxers, the tensions around the pandemic, and I will say, I think the Prime Minister's contribution during the last election campaign of basically running against the vaccine hesitant, running hard on vaccine mandates as a wedge issue, added some unnecessary fuel to that. I think that one of the things we should take stock of after this is not just how did the situation get so out of control in Ottawa, but how have these tensions in society grown to such an extent? How do we deal with the new stresses and tensions from social media? How do we reintegrate people who feel like they've kind of dropped out of the socialization process, aren't sharing in the same knowledge creation process that the rest of us are? I think these are critical. And as I say, for the Prime Minister to have pushed on that particular nerve ending with that particular group is definitely part of this.
And what responsibility do politicians have in that conversation, Chantal?
To present facts and not distort them, which is not necessarily what we've seen over the course of the past 3 weeks. That if you know, and if you're a parliamentarian, you have to know, for instance, that civil liberties were not suspended in this country, or that Tiananmen Square was not replayed. And you do have a responsibility to facts. Because if you don't, once you're in government, because opposition MPs, and I'm going to name the party, Conservatives who have indulged in this, one day will be in government and they will pay for what they have been sowing by indulging falsehoods to advance whatever agenda that they may have. The other point I would bring, and I know it's counterintuitive, but if we had a parliament that had proportional representation, and if some of those voices, as much as many will dislike them, were represented in the House, I'm talking about Maxime Bernier's People's Party here, it would be healthier to have them in the House than to have them on the outside.
That's an interesting point of view. Althea.
I actually think that those voices have been represented in some ways in the House. I mean, if you listen to the debate this weekend, many Conservative MPs were giving voice to the same concerns that Maxime Bernier was raising. And if there's any party that's having a real conflict within itself, I think it's MPs standing up and saying, hey, the Prime Minister is not a dictator. He was legitimately elected. Conservative MPs saying that, whereas their Conservative colleagues are saying the opposite. You know, sometimes the climate in the House of Commons was toxic. I think that is also part of the problem.
Elamine, last word on this to you.
I mean, listen, I'm at a point where I don't know what to do because I don't know how this country comes back together after this. I don't know how we sort of bridge these divides after this because you have a set of politicians who are very interested in using these divisions as a means of sort of like getting very small coalitions that are just sufficient enough to govern, sort of, you know, get 29, 30% of the vote, and maybe with the help of other couple parties, and maybe you can be in power. Our political system enables it, right? Our political system enables this. Meanwhile, the very real populist anger ends up attaching itself to vehicles like the trucker convoy. But like that anger has real sort of real concerns that need to be addressed. The sort of wealth inequalities in this country have gotten more severe. You know, climate change has destroyed a lot of infrastructure in this country, a lot of industries in this country. And you don't hear politicians talking about the things that bring the country together to say, this is the problem that we need to to deal with as a country. We hear a lot of politicians, as Andrew mentioned, sort of using the other side as just a specific wedge to say, you know what, I'm going to gain just a few more votes on this side, and that's going to be enough. So until that is discouraged in this political system, I think we're going to remain broken in exactly this way.
Okay, so we'll talk about all of this again, a big topic to cover and not a lot of time. Thank you all, I appreciate it. Chantal, Andrew, Althea, and Elamine. Now it's back to Andrew in Toronto.
Thanks, Rosie. Well, the price of food keeps rising, and that has more and more Canadians asking for help.
There's this need for basic necessities that they used to be able to afford.
More communities are stepping up to help feed the hungry. We'll look at what else needs to be done next. Surging food prices are helping feed inflation, punishing many family budgets. For many Canadians, food insecurity is a stark reality. Tonight, in our continuing series, Priced Out, a look at some community projects that are helping to fill the gap. Crystalie Ramlakan shows us how.
This church parking lot has been transformed into a community dinner service for those in need.
I come here every day. Like I don't have a lot of money. If you can't afford it, it's good to have something.
The church used to provide meals from its basement, but when the pandemic hit, it switched to takeout.
Mushrooms, pepper.
Volunteers prep food in the church's newly renovated kitchen. More than 300 meals are brought outside and served.
It's just as important to be innovative about our ideas as it is about accomplishing the task of feeding people who go without food.
Father Toby Collins has seen a sudden increase in people looking for help.
There's this need for basic necessities that they used to be able to afford.
In PEI, this is the province's first community fridge. It's packed with free groceries. For students like Caleb Baldwin, it's a lifeline.
Try to pay like fees and stuff. It's also hard for food and rent and everything else.
15-year-old Samuel Sunil came up with the idea for the fridge with his sister. It's open 24/7. To keep up with growing demand, volunteers have to restock it throughout the day.
They can rely on the PI community fridge to take something, or the next day they can also contribute to it.
In the far north, this local community food center has launched a new program providing traditional food staples like muskox. The recent rise in the cost of gas has even made hunting too expensive for some.
Especially for community members who are experiencing chronic food insecurity, having regular and consistent access to country food is essential to their health and well-being.
But experts say these kinds of charitable food programs are not a long-term solution.
We need public policy change. We need programs that redistribute income, land, that address systemic inequalities.
And with record food prices expected to continue throughout the year, it's almost certain more and more people are going to be relying on community to help put food on the table. Crystalie Ramlacan, CBC News, Ottawa.
And there is more special coverage coming your way as we investigate the painful return of higher inflation. Watch for our stories on being priced out. Well, a BC senior is sharing quite the story tonight. He was adrift at sea for days after his sailboat sank.
And they said, "Oh no," and I'm getting choked up. We're here to rescue you.
His dramatic rescue caught on camera. Next.
How many days in the
Welcome aboard, sir.
Are you okay? I'm, yeah.
BC's Don Cavers had no idea his Caribbean sailing adventure would turn into an international rescue mission. After losing his boat, he drifted for days in a life raft, desperately low on supplies. But salvation did finally arrive, and guided by help from Canada. Over the years, Cavers has lost another boat to hurricane, and even he's had to force land a malfunctioning seaplane. He spoke with Brady Strachan about this latest adventure.
This time we can go slow.
Don Cavers is enjoying a slower pace with his grandchildren these days, moments he's grateful for considering his recent ordeal.
I mean, it started out to be an adventure and ended up being a misadventure. This one I built from
With 6 decades of sailing experience and multiple solo trips behind him, his latest voyage should have been routine. He set out from Colombia on December 2nd, heading for Puerto Rico. But 3 days in, disaster struck.
Everything on the boat shut down. Radio, navigation, radar.
Steering with a compass alone, Cavers continued north. But 3 days later, his boat came to a sudden stop.
I fell asleep at a very inopportune time and woke up to a very heavy bump and found myself bouncing on a reef.
Cavers said his boat started sinking and he had to abandon ship. He spent the next several days adrift, alone in a life raft, with water but hardly any food. Back home, his daughter was getting worried.
Something has happened that has prevented him basically from getting in touch. And yeah, like shipwreck.
She put in calls to the U.S. and Puerto Rico Coast Guards, but it was a search and rescue team in Trenton, Ontario that picked up Cavers' Canadian emergency beacon signal.
We had no idea who was on that boat, but the beacon was transmitting. It was on, and it was constantly providing a position.
After nearly 6 days in the life raft, and with multiple agencies looking for him, a merchant ship finally spotted Cavers in the distance. He heard it approaching and pulled out his emergency bag.
I immediately unzipped and fired a couple of flares up and grabbed the radio. And to let these guys know that, hey, I can't get out of your way. And they said, oh, no. And I'm getting choked up. We're here to rescue you.
Cavers was plucked from the sea with the help of the entire ship's crew. He had lost 6 kilos.
Welcome aboard, sir.
A week later, he was finally able to get off the ship in Jamaica and fly home, bringing with him a story neither he or his family will soon forget. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Armstrong, British Columbia.
Indeed. Glad to see he's okay. Next, a Manitoba woman laces up her skates and hits the highway.
We were halfway home and said, you know what, I got my skates in the back of the car. I'll put my skates on.
Find out why right after the break. Well, Manitoba was hit with everything from freezing rain to heavy snow this past weekend, which led to some pretty scary conditions on the roads. But one woman saw an opportunity, decided to lace up her skates. What happened next is tonight's moment.
My boyfriend Marty and I, we were driving home from Minnesota and we were driving to Boulder. And it was supposed to be a 2-hour drive and it turned into a 4-hour drive and we were so sick of it. So we were halfway home and said, you know what, I got my skates in the back of the car. I'll put my skates on. Let's make this drive a little bit more fun than stressful. I skated in the past when I was a kid, but that was the first time that I'd skated for a long time. It felt really good actually to get back on my skates. Skating on the highway, it was actually, there was a lot of ice. The ice was pretty thick. So it was actually really good. I did have to watch for a couple of stones sticking out, but the highway was really, really icy. Like our car was sliding around. I was trying not to trip because that would have been a little bit more embarrassing.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and file this one under don't try this at home. I mean, you want to be careful, right, if you're going to do that kind of thing on the road. But on the principle of finding joy in hardship, okay, I see the point. That's The National for this February 23rd. Have a great night.